Daniel Carter woke up at 3 in the morning to the unmistakable smell of smoke, the kind that shocks the body awake before the mind can understand what is happening. When he opened his eyes, the room around him was already clouded, the air thick and burning his lungs with every breath. He heard the violent crackle of flames devouring wood, and in a surge of panic he shouted for his wife, "Martha, wake up! The house is on fire!" They stumbled out of bed as the heat pressed against their skin, and when Daniel opened the bedroom door, the living room was already engulfed, bright orange swallowing everything they owned. With no way out through the hallway, he grabbed a chair, shattered the window, and pushed Martha through before climbing out behind her. They hit the ground coughing, trembling, alive but stunned. In silence, they watched 30 years of home, memories, and love burned down in front of them. Daniel was 58 years old. A carpenter since childhood, he had spent decades building custom furniture, repairing homes, crafting pieces for families across their small Tennessee town. His workshop, attached to the house, held every tool he had collected over a lifetime. Saws, routers, sanders, his prized lathe, stacks of carefully selected lumber, oak, cedar, walnut. It was more than equipment. It was his identity, his livelihood, his pride. And in a single night, a spark in the workshop ignited sawdust, spreading faster than he could have imagined. By the time firefighters contained the blaze, everything was lost. The house was gone, the workshop was gone, even the savings he kept hidden in a metal cabinet had melted away. Insurance covered only the structure of the home, not the tools, not the inventory, not the workshop where he had invested so much. The payout barely reached $15,000, nowhere near enough to rebuild. With nowhere to live, Daniel and Martha moved into the small guest room of their son's home. It was humbling, painful, and for Daniel, almost unbearable. He felt old, defeated, as if the fire had burned away not only his belongings, but the last years of his strength. The physical pain of decades of carpentry, aching knees, stiff hands, combined with emotional exhaustion, made him wonder if he should simply retire. But Martha refused to let him quit. She reminded him that his craftsmanship was not stored in a toolbox. It lived in his hands, his mind, and the lessons his father taught him when he was still a boy sanding wood in their old garage. The fire took things, she told him, but it didn't take who you are. Her words planted a seed in his weary heart. Through their church, Daniel found unexpected support. Pastor Williams offered him a storage room behind the sanctuary, a space he could temporarily convert into a mini workshop. Members of the congregation donated small amounts of money, raising a little over $2,000. He used it to buy basic second-hand tools, a handheld saw, a drill, and a sander, and he began taking small repair jobs again. Fixing a neighbor's cabinet, repairing an old church pew, building simple shelves for a family friend. Every job reminded him that although his workshop had burned, his purpose had not. Slowly, opportunities multiplied. A satisfied customer recommended him to another, then another. Within months, Daniel had saved enough to invest in slightly better equipment, but he still lacked a real workshop. The land where his home once stood was now an empty plot filled with ashes and debris. With $15,000 from insurance and $5,000 saved from small jobs, he decided to rebuild, not a full home, but a modest workshop first. A local contractor volunteered discounted labor, and with the help of friends from church, Daniel built a simple structure with 4 walls, a metal roof, and basic electrical wiring. It wasn't fancy, but it was enough. Enough to begin again. Enough to believe again. Then something happened that Daniel never expected. A teenager named Jacob, struggling with school and drifting into dangerous crowds, was sent to him by the pastor. The boy's mother begged Daniel to teach him carpentry, to give him something to hold on to. Daniel hesitated at first. He didn't feel qualified to guide anyone, but he remembered how his own father had rescued him from aimlessness by placing a piece of sandpaper in his hand. so he agreed. Jacob was clumsy, impatient, sometimes careless, but he returned every day. Daniel taught him how to measure wood, how to respect the grain, how to finish a piece with pride. And as Jacob improved, he changed. His posture straightened. His anger faded. He smiled when he completed a project. His mother cried the first time she saw him show Daniel a chair he had built. Word spread. Soon other boys showed up, 3, then 5, eventually more, each one searching for direction, discipline, and hope. Daniel realized his new workshop was becoming more than a business, it was becoming a refuge. By the 3rd year after the fire, he had trained over a dozen young men. Some went on to work in construction, some opened small woodworking shops, and some simply stayed away from the streets because Daniel had given them a reason to believe they could build something good with their lives. Financially, Daniel was stable again. His workshop earned steady income, and the weekend woodworking classes he taught brought in extra money. But more importantly, he had discovered a purpose far greater than anything he had imagined before the fire. What he built now was not just furniture, it was futures. Today, 5 years after losing everything, Daniel Carter has a thriving workshop, 5 employees, including 2 former students, and a reputation for craftsmanship and compassion. He earns more than he did before the fire, but he rarely talks about income. What he talks about are the boys he has mentored, the lives he has seen transformed, and the way God rebuilt his spirit, even before rebuilding his shop. Daniel often says the fire destroyed his possessions, but ignited his purpose. And his favorite verse hangs above the workshop door as a reminder that restoration is always possible, even from ashes. And his story reminds us that what is built with heart, humility, and hope can survive any storm and rise again with greater strength and grace. You just spent 8 minutes for God. 8 minutes to grow in wisdom, faith, and peace. See you tomorrow. Verse for your meditation, Job chapter 42, verse 12. And the Lord blessed the latter part of Job's life more than the former.